So this is a more seriously toned thing today, as you can tell. It didn't start off this way. I opened up the video with the usual full intent and purpose to just make fun of it. But then as I went through it, there was the creeping realization that there was a serious topic that I needed to talk about, and so, as the video is sitting in front of me right now, paused, I'm just going to run with it, because quite frankly, I'm just sick of all of this fucking bullshit, and this fucking stupid idea that in order to abolish racism, we should bring back racism. And the idea that people actually think that this makes sense in any way is just fucking appalling. And you know, also the idea that the only way that you have a right to speak about this is if you are an oppressed color, as if you're not white. And you know what, I might as well play into that, because I'm not white, so you can't say that I'm just an oppressor and write off my opinion. Maybe this time you'll actually listen to it and listen to how stupid you are before you hurt yourself.
I just want to start off by giving a huge shout out to white people who understand white privilege. I can't even begin to express how much I admire white people who don't sit there and act like white privilege isn't a thing, who understand their privilege and how they benefit from their privilege and are vocal about it.
This actually reminds me of something. So I have depression and anxiety, and it's one of those funny little ones where the chemicals just mess with your brain and make you feel oh so happy all the time. And as you can probably tell, I don't have a victim mentality about it. Even though in my brain, it tells me to, because it tells me that I'll feel happier or I'll feel better if I just give in to the depression, I just give in to the anxiety, I just do unhealthy things. Like it'll somehow help. But I don't. You know why? Because it's stupid. And even though it's hard to fight that, the healthiest thing I can do is not give in to depression and anxiety. Because the more I harm myself, the more it will trick me into thinking that I feel good, and that it's the right thing to do. And then soon enough it'll block my vision completely until it's the only thing that I know. It's the only representation of reality that I know. Now I would like you to imagine this. Replace me with Trey Melvin, and replace the depression and anxiety with the people that he surrounds himself with. Replace the urge to harm yourself because you'll feel better with the idea that you should be a victim and you should be entitled and be oppressed and have that mindset that you are oppressed because society tells you that you're not good enough and that you will somehow be enlightened by the truth and that will make you feel good. Now imagine that instead of the depression making me feel like my whole reality is now that, imagine Trey Melvin succumbing to the social justice that surrounds him, and that even though he has quite a substantial amount of money, he deserves an apology from a homeless white man just because of the color of their skin. Because he's given into that and it's been reinforced so many times that it's now replaced any semblance of reality that he once had. Now, keep thinking about that and keep thinking about how scarily similar those things are. And once you've come to that realization, keep watching his video.
I was high as fuck the other day and I was just sitting there like, wow. As a black man, I obviously understand the black struggle simply because it's my struggle. And I couldn't possibly wrap my head around this kind of struggle if I was anything but black. So for those of you who don't necessarily understand it because you don't feel it, but can acknowledge it and are willing to be educated on our oppression and learn from us and listen to us and fight with us, thank you so much, because I know that it takes a lot to grasp.
Okay, so apparently this guy is in his early 20s. And apparently when he was younger, he was actually pretty okay. And then as he got closer and closer to this kind of age he is now, he started getting more and more into the social justice thing. And honestly, I just want to thank him. You know why? Because me being younger than him means that I have the potential to become like that as well. But just looking at how you turn out when you start going down that road, it scares me enough that I know I won't do that. So, even if I only can think of one positive thing that this video does, it prevents me from ever becoming like him.
You don't have to worry about becoming victim to both law enforcement and the judicial system alike. You don't have to worry about your teenage son's unjustified death being mocked. You don't have to worry about informing your children of the harsh realities of systematic racism.
Okay, so this is the thing that just pisses me off so much. You have a problem in your community. You have a problem that you see that you think is for whatever reason. Now, instead of actually fixing the problem, you then go, hey, I could fix the problem, I could help people, or I could just hate on other people. If you really cared about this problem, would it not make more sense for you to actually go to those black children that are growing up in that horrible environment and being brought up without any safety or any proper education, and then growing up committing crimes and then being arrested by the police, and then all of that together perpetuating the same cycle and the same idea that you want to fight against? Wouldn't you then go and help those people? Wouldn't you then try and campaign for everybody to be united together to say, hey, there's a problem, but I'm not going to point fingers and I'm not going to fight about it. I'm just going to try and solve the problem. We should all solve the problem. Shouldn't the desire to help people truly encompass everything else, all of your thinking, if that's what you really want? But no, instead of doing all of that, all you're doing is saying, hey, there's this problem. Instead of talking about the problem, let's just talk about how evil white people are because I blame them for the problem. Instead of actually fixing the problem, let's just demonize white people, because that fixes nothing, but I feel like it. This is why social justice eats itself. This is why it'll never work. Because if you really want a movement, then the idea of telling everyone to educate themselves shitlord, and to kick everybody out and demonize them if they don't agree with you, that's going to destroy your movement. And it's destroying your movement. But your movement has a habit of trying to creep back in through the most unfair and intolerant ways possible. And that is why we have the dilemma that we have now. And yes, I know I'm late to the party and that everyone has responded to this video and everyone has put him back in his place. I still have something to say about it.
But you white motherfuckers, you kill me. Again, thank you for those of you who do understand, who do listen, who do have our backs. But as for the rest of you, you fucking kill me. You don't know a damn thing about what it means to be black, how it feels to be black, how little our existence truly matters in this country that was literally built for the success and the survival of the white man. You don't.
So I've moved around a lot when I was a kid. I have been to 8 different towns, and because of this, our family's never really been rich. And we've never really been down to the poverty line, but we've been kinda close. But when saying that, I still have loads more privilege than a white person who is homeless would ever have, because they're homeless. I still have a home. And this is one of the fundamental flaws of white privilege.
See, the new face of racism is not in-your-face racism, but structural racism, also known as white privilege.
If white privilege was really so strong, then why is Trey the rich one? Why is he not the homeless one? If white privilege was really so strong, then why are there homeless white people? Why are there white people who have poverty? If white privilege was really so strong, then why do white people not just take everything from black people? Why do they not just take everything from Trey and become as privileged as he is? It's because it doesn't work like that. See, the interesting thing about social justice is the ability for people who feel oppressed to say that they have nothing, but at the same time demand everything. To say that they have nothing and that they're being continuously put down by society, but at the same time that gives them the right to take absolutely everything. To say that they're trying to preach tolerance, but at the very same time trying to split people up, that those words always have that dual meaning to them.
You don't have to worry about being told to get over slavery or Jim Crow.
You can demonize people as much as you want, Trey, but at the end of the day, that's not really working. Because when I look at you, do you want to know what I see? I see Jim Crow trying to pretend that he's the slave. That's all that I see. This act of being oppressed is not really fooling me. Because the interesting thing about an intolerant, hateful person is they can never really hide how intolerant and hateful they are. You don't really give a shit about any of the problems that you just spout, because they weirdly enough always relate back to you. It's like you go on long enough just to make people think that you really care about the whole problem, but then in the end, you spend about 1 minute talking about the problem and another 5 talking about how it relates back to you. How blackness is something that can be measured as a form of oppression and not just the color of your skin, not just some arbitrary thing that doesn't matter. And how you think that, black people and white people are all in this hive mind. That black people are in one hive mind and white people are in another hive mind, and the hive minds cannot exist together. Because it doesn't work that way. And if I really have to be connected to you in some form, like skin color makes us family or something, then the only thing I have to say about that is I am ashamed to be connected in any way to someone as hateful as you.
Y'all white privilege doesn't exist, motherfuckers. Y'all all lives matter, motherfuckers, are accessories to the black struggle.
And this is one of the reasons why I get so pissed off when Black Lives Matter supporters claim to be victims. Because the minute that I would talk about being against Black Lives Matter, I would immediately be called an Aunt Jemima, a coon, a race traitor, an internalized racist. Even the term infected with whiteness would come out of the mouths of some people.
I don't even have words for black people who do not support Black Lives Matter, for black people who have the audacity to spit in the faces of your brothers and your sisters with that all lives matter bullshit.
How can people who say that they are tolerant at the same time create the notion that the color of a certain race's skin is somehow a disease that can infect different people? And that those people are broken and can no longer be considered people anymore? That whiteness is like a disease, it's like cancer. How is that in any way tolerant? And the idea that someone who is homeless, who has nothing in the world, is somehow in debt to you for no reason besides you just being born with that skin color and them being born with the wrong one. You are not the victim here. And honestly, this comment sums it up the best.
Can't stand those autistic jump cuts either, but doesn't he have a hell of a nice watch?
I don't really feel like wasting my time that much with this anymore. I feel like I'm being depressing enough as it is with my points. But I have one more thing to say. You know that what you are saying is horrible. You know that what you are saying is one of the most narcissistic, entitled things I've ever heard, and you know this, and you keep saying it anyway because you know it gets you shit. You know that you profit from it, and at the moment you don't care, but you will. One day, hopefully, your logic and reason that once existed will break through the surface. And I get the feeling that you're kind of scared of that, because when that happens you will realize how much of a dick that you're being, and it'll haunt you forever. And I know that this has been mentioned by other people, but I want to mention it again to really drive the point home. The amount of horrible things that you do will haunt you when you inevitably realize this. So I think that in your best interests, you should keep those horrible things to as low a number as possible. So next week, my family is actually going on holiday, so I won't be around to upload anything. But don't worry, because the week after that, I promise I'll put up something twice as good, and it probably won't be as serious as it was now.